This Saturday in Istanbul, we are going to witness the most anticipated volleyball match of the year. Yes, I know the VNL starts in a month. And yes, I know the European Championships are going to be happening this year. But this Saturday in Istanbul, we are going to see the two best women's volleyball teams in the entire world go head to head. And it won't even be the final. It will be the semifinal. And I mean, before we get into it, I'm going to invite you to join me here on this channel on Saturday for a live watch along during the game for when Vakifbank and Imoco Conegliano face off in the semifinals of the CEV Champions League. So if you want to come join me for the watch along, join me and the community, you should subscribe to this channel, turn on that notification bell, and then join us over on the Volleyball Source Discord, the best online volleyball community in the world, to know when we go live. But yes, this is very much the two best women's teams in the world, and it's not even close. This is undoubtedly going to be the actual final, even though it's happening in the semis. This is the champion of the Lega Volley Femminili against the champion of the Sultanlar Ligi from Turkey. And in the other semifinal, you've got two teams who didn't even make their respective finals. So we're going to be focusing on this match because this is the match that everyone wants to know about. And why is it so big? Between these two teams, they have won the past 7 of 8. Between these two teams, they have won the past 7 of 8 CEV Champions Leagues. Of course, there was the 1 year where we didn't have a Champions League because of COVID, and then Novara defeated Conegliano in 2019. But other than that, it has been all Vakifbank and Conegliano since then, since the first time they played in 2017 until now in 2026. And I'm going to break down why this rivalry is so potent, and then I'm going to break down what I think is going to happen in this match. And now, first and foremost, when we look at their 2 seasons this year, it is eerily similar. 41-4 record for Vakifbank, 47-5 record for Conegliano. Both of them won their respective cups, the Turkish Cup and the Italian Cup, and then both of them won their leagues, the Sultanlar Ligi and the Lega Volley Femminili. Each of them lost the Super Cup at the beginning of the season. Conegliano also lost the Club World Championships, but Vakifbank wasn't theirs. Each lost only 1 regular season game. Vakifbank lost 2 matches in their final series. Conegliano only lost 1. And now Conegliano also lost a game in the CEV Champions League in the quarterfinals to Zarenspor, but it was the second game of the series, and after they won the first 2 sets, they put in the bench, and they had already won the series. So I don't even know if you can count that as a loss. But when we're looking at these two teams' records all time, it is pretty crazy. They have matched up with each other 8 different times across the CEV Champions League and the Club World Championships for 9 different matches. Just that one last meeting in 2023 was the only time they had to play a 2-game series. And this series is split evenly right down the middle, 4-4. Vakifbank has the edge in the Champions League. They have a 3-2 record against Conegliano in the Champions League, but Conegliano has the edge at the Club World Championships. They have a 2-1 record against Vakifbank. Now, overall, Conegliano does technically have more wins. They have 5 wins to Vakifbank's 4 losses, but this has been a tightly contested series going all the way back to 2017. And now, interestingly enough, 3 of the athletes in this series have been on these teams the entire time. Cantu Azbey and Aikac from Vakifbank, and then Monica De Gennaro for Conegliano. Now, De Gennaro is the only one who actually played in that original match back in 2017. And you also have both of these coaches who have been with both of these teams since 2017. And that's honestly where we're going to start this conversation. Now, it is important to note that Santarelli wasn't the head coach of Conegliano back in 2017. He was the assistant coach and then took over the role of head coach right after that. Between Giovanni Guidetti and Daniele Santarelli, these are hands down the 2 best coaches in the world when it comes to women's volleyball. And I can honestly say they're probably the 2 best coaches in the world right now in volleyball as a whole. And now they have been intrinsically linked since that time. They have been kind of compared to each other nonstop. And if we go back to leading up to the 2022 Champions League, they were asked about each other, and they had this to say. When Santarelli was talking about Guidetti, he says, "I think he's the best coach in the world. Every time we must find the one solution and try our play our best volleyball, first and foremost, and then see what happens." And then Guidetti had the response of, "I dream of a Champions League where we meet each other more than just twice a year. I see myself in Daniele some years ago. A lot of passion, knowledge, achieving great results immediately, a lot of desire to learn and make new experiences. I wish him all the best, but he is already on a very nice path." And you can kind of tell that there is kind of a master and Padawan relationship between these two guys. And it does make sense. Guidetti is 10 years older than Vakifbank. And when you look at Guidetti, he has been the head coach of Vakifbank since 2008. I mean, he is now a legend. He has built one of the best teams in the world and has really helped mold Turkish volleyball, not only for his time with Vakifbank, but then also for his time with Turkey. And on the other side of things, Daniele Santarelli is a little bit of the wonder kid who's slightly newer on the scene, right? Santarelli was an assistant coach for 4 years, was Davide Mazzanti's assistant coach for Conegliano from 2015 to 2017, and then took over that head coaching role in the 2017-2018 season, right after they have lost to Vakifbank and lost their first Champions League finals for the first time the year before. But it is important to note that since 2018, Daniele Santarelli has never lost the Lega Volley Femminile. He is a perfect 8 for 8 over the course of his technically 9 seasons, but we lost that one season to COVID, which is absolutely incredible. Having not even been a head coach for 10 years, he has quickly risen to the top to be one of the best coaches of all time. No doubt about it. Now, when you look and compare these two coaches, you can kind of see that Guidetti has maybe done a little bit better in club competitions, whereas Santarelli has slightly better results in national team competitions. And we're going to focus on those national team competitions in just a second. But Guidetti has won 6 Champions Leagues. He has 11 medals overall. Santarelli has won 3 Champions Leagues, and he has 7 medals overall. Each of them has won 3 Club World Championships. Guidetti has won 3 Turkish leagues with Vakifbank. Santarelli has won 8 Lega Volley Femminilies with Conegliano. It says 10 there, but 2 of those were when he was an assistant coach. Then we got Guidetti, so many years of experience at the European Championships and at the VNL and Grand Prix. I mean, he's coached now 6 different national teams on the women's side, whereas Santarelli is really only on his 2nd national team, but he's won a World Championships, he's won a European Championships, he's won a VNL, and he has got 4th at the Olympics. And I think it is obvious to say that if there was ever a Space Jam-esque galactic competition where the women of Earth needed to take on the aliens of Mars or somewhere else, these are the 2 men that I would want working together to lead that team. And now, there is one more other thing to talk about, another level of lore when comparing these 2 coaches. And it is the coaches swap of 2023. For 5 years, Guidetti was the head coach of the Turkish national team. And I mean, it makes sense. He had so much experience and so much success in the Turkish league, and it just became obvious that he would move on and become the Turkish women's coach. And he honestly brought them to heights they had never really seen before. Before him, in 2017, in his first year, they got 11th in the Grand Prix. And then 4 straight years, they made it to the semifinals of the VNL. It's the same thing when we look at the European Championships, right? He led them to 3 straight medals at the European Championships. When we look at the World Championships, he brought them to the quarterfinals for the first time and their 2nd best finish of all time at the World Championships. And then, of course, you've got the Olympics, where he led them to the quarterfinals for the first time in only their 2nd appearance in the biggest competition in volleyball. But at the end of the 2022 season, Turkey lets Guidetti go, and they go out and get Santarelli. And now Santarelli had only been with Serbia for that 1 year, but there was essentially a coach's swap, where Guidetti went to Serbia, Santarelli came to Turkey. And that's the point where he really elevated and helped bring them to the next level. It's in 2023 where we see Turkey win their first VNL. It's in 2023 where we see Turkey win their first European Championships. When you go to the Olympics in 2024, he's the one who brought them to 4th place for the first time, into the semifinals for the first time. And then, of course, last year at the World Championships, he leads them to their first finals ever, past the semifinals for the first time, and gets them their first World Championship medal of all time. Now, I do think it's important to note that when Santarelli joined the Turkish national team in 2023, it's also the same year that Melissa Vargas joined that team. So you can't exactly put everything on him to be able to lift them over that hump. They also gained one of the best players in the world. But it just kind of shows you how far, and I'm not going to say it's rivalry because we've seen how well they speak about each other, but just how deep the lore between these 2 coaches go. Now, before we get into the actual rosters, even though these 2 teams haven't played each other in a while, since 2023, it's been 3 entire years that we've been deprived of this rivalry, there's a lot of crossover between these 2 teams. Hell, half of Conegliano's starting lineup was a starter and won championships with Vakifbank. Zhu Ting, Isabel Haak, and Gabi all played for Vakifbank. The last time these two teams played, Gabi played for Vakifbank. Daldarop also played for Vakifbank in the past. And then on the other side, Jacko Bogu, who is now on her second stint with Vakifbank, spent some time with Conegliano as well. So there is a lot of crossover between these two teams. And I think, first and foremost, we need to look at the starting rosters, or what I perceive to be the starting rosters for this match. And now on the Conegliano side, we know that what that starting roster looks like. Voloj, Gabi, Zhu Ting, Sarah Farr, Christina Kirikella, Isabel Haak, and Monica De Gennaro. On the Vakifbank side of things, it is a little bit different. Because in the Champions League, there is no foreigner rule, they can be a little bit more liberal and use their entire roster. So that's why I think that we're going to see things slightly different from what we saw in the Sultan Ligi playoffs. And their roster is going to look like Ozbek Kanchu, Marina Markova, Elena Kazot, Zara Gunesh, Chako Bogu, Tiana Boskovic, and Aika Aikac. Now, the big two differences for this Vakifbank roster are going to be Elena Kazot and Chaka Obogu. And I think they're going to really elevate the level of play for Vakifbank. Kazot is a fantastic receiver and defender. She's not necessarily known as a very offensive P2, especially within this Vakifbank system, but she will really help solidify that serve receive for Vakifbank. And then Chaka Obogu, I mean, what can we say about her? She's just a consummate champion. She's won with Vakifbank. She has been steady presence for the American women's national team, and she will really help bolster the middle. And Zara Gunesh and Chako Bogu down the middle is one of the best middle pairings in the world. No doubt about it. But when you look at the head-to-heads on this team, you've got the longtime leaders for both of these teams, Kanchu and Voloj. Voloj has been the captain of this team since 2017. She's been around basically for the entirety of this rivalry. She's considered one of the best setters in the world. Actually, I would consider her the best setter in the world, one of the best setters of all time. And Kanchu, I think she is a little bit underrated. I really do. She maybe doesn't have that technical skill on the touch that Voloj does, but I think she's gritty, and I think she lives and dies for this team, and she shows up in these big matches. Next up, we see Marina Markova against Gabi. Wow. The two best outside hitters in the world, bar none. No one touches these two. I think up until this year, people would say that no one touched Gabi, but the way Markova has been playing, the way she led Vakifbank throughout that final series, throughout last year's final series as well, you cannot look at her but being anything less than one of the top two outside hitters in the world. The only person who competes with her in that area is Gabi. Now, Markova is a lot more physical than Gabi, but Gabi has that skill, right? She can pass, she can play defense, and she is just a leader. Once again, she has won championships with both of these teams. Zhu Ting, absolute legend. One of the best players in the 2010s and can still rock it. Kazot, one of the best defensive and best serve receivers in the world. Down the middle, Sarah Farr, Christina Kirikella, both of whom are world champions, Olympic champions. These are two ladies who know how to get the job done. But on the other side, Zara Gunesh, Chako Bogu, my goodness, two of the best blockers of the world, two of the best middle blockers in the world. And then finally, in that opposite position, Tiana Boskovic and Isabel Haak. And right now, in the current ethos of women's volleyball, in the current meta of women's volleyball, having a dominant opposite is your key to success. When you look at the best teams in the world, both in club and internationally, having one of the best opposites in the world is going to put you on another level altogether. And then these are two of the best. Boskovic, two-time world champion MVP. And on the other side, Isabel Haak, who is one of the most dominant and consistent players in the game today. She has won so much on the club level. She's Swedish, so it's not like she's going to be doing much on the international level, but she has won with both of these teams. She's won leagues, she's won Champions League, she's won club world championships. She has been able to do it all, and she's one of the most consistent players who is going to bring the same level of play game in and game out. And then once again, you've got two players who, in the libero position, have been with this team for a long, long time. As much as I love Aikac, you cannot compete with Monica De Gennaro. She is the all-time GOAT in the libero position, world champion, Olympic champion. She has won literally everything possible and has been at the core and in the heart of this fantastic Conegliano team for years. And I just love what we've got here. Now, when you compare these two teams statistically, there's really not that much that separates these two teams. Both of them earn a lot of points. Vakifbank does get a little bit more break points, and they technically make a little bit less errors, but they mainly make less errors in their serving. Vakifbank, hands down, is the best serving and blocking team in the world. Not only do they average more aces per set than Conegliano, they also average less serve errors per set than Conegliano and have an incredible minus 0.04 serve efficiency, which is absolutely ridiculous. On the other side is a fantastic first ball receive team. right? Passing almost 57% positive with a 34% perfect, where it's just 40% and 20% on the Vakifbank side. But it is important to note that Vakifbank, while they don't pass all of that well, a lot of their passes are negatives or ones, they also don't get aced that well, averaging less receive errors per set, or, getting aced less than Imoco Conegliano. But on the other side, Imoco is a little bit more efficient and does have does get more kills per set than Vakifbank. But once again, that's because Vakifbank relies on their serve and their block. When I do stats, what doesn't matter if it's men's or women's, I have never seen, not this year especially, a team who is averaging more than 3 blocks per set. That is absolutely incredible. And that's why we see that Vakifbank averages more break points per set as well, because they are one of the best serving teams in the world, and they are the best blocking team in the world. And when you put that together, that makes it a very, very deadly combination. And I'm going to start here with Imoco, because Conegliano, they have been so dominant over the years because they dominate in every phase of the game and they take care of the details so well. They just play volleyball well. They serve well. They don't serve deadly, right? They're not necessarily going for aces, and they try not to make a lot of errors. They do make more errors this year than they have in past years. That serve efficiency is a little bit lower this year than we've seen in the past. But we also see them put teams in tougher positions, right? They serve very strategically to put teams in tough positions. But where they really shine is their offense. Of course, they have the best setter in the world, and Joanna Voloj, and she has the ability to really spread that ball around, especially because their first contact is so good. Over a third of the time, they are perfectly in system, which allows her to really run that offense really well. Of course, the centerpiece of that offense is Isabelle Haak. She led this team with well over 600 points this year, averaging over 4 points per set. But then on the other pin, you've got Gabi. And there is a clear hierarchy within the Conegliano offense, but they use everyone. They use absolutely everyone. Right? Pretty much all of their attackers on this team have at least 200 points or more throughout the regular season and playoffs in the Lega Volley Femminile, right? First, you've got Haak, then you've got Gabi, then you've got Sarah Farr, both Zhu Ting and Fatoumata Sylla, who played some time for Zhu as well while she was away in China, have over 200 points, and so does Kira Kella. So this is a team who spreads the ball out very, very, very well, and it's all based off of their first contact. It's all based off of how well they can get that ball to Voloj, and then she can just spread it out. And in system is where they're so dangerous, because they can have Gabi run that pipe, they can have Haak run on the C ball, something that we don't necessarily see all that much in the women's game, and then they can work with the middles too, and also outlet to whether it's Zhu or Fatoumata Sylla on the outside. But Conegliano's game is all about executing at the highest level at all times. And they are going to look to engage in a lot of rallies, right? That's why they try to not take a lot of risks on serve, because they want to engage you in rallies. And they know the longer the rally goes on, the higher chance they're going to get that point, because they take care of the details so well, and everyone knows their role and everyone knows what they can do. They've got De Gennaro who can keep the ball alive. They got Voloj who can create magic, etc. And then they've got weapons absolutely everywhere. On the other side of things, Vakifbank is the best serving and blocking team in the world. Yes, they put a lot of pressure on you from the baseline, but they also don't make that many errors. So it is just a constant barrage of pressure from the baseline, and they try to force you out of system and then get you with their blocking. As I mentioned, they have two of the best middle blockers in the world in Abogu and Zaragunes, but then you have Boskovic and Markova on the pins as well, who are really able to shut down hitters. I honestly think that Vakifbank's game plan is going to come down to two things. First and foremost, they are going to need to pull Voloj out of system. They need to get her off the net. They need to make sure that they go to a high ball offense, because especially when Zhu is in the front row, they're a lot less effective because you can't run your middles and you have to go high ball outside to Haak. And on the other side of things, I really think that Guidetti is going to do everything in his power to get Marina Markova matched up with Isabelle Haak. I think that if he doesn't do that, Haak is going to be able to eat Kazot alive, or if it's Tebigiolu as well. Either one of those two players, I think Haak is going to be able to eat them alive. She doesn't get into swinging low and hard like Melissa Vargas tends to do long into matches. Haak is so good and so disciplined. She's so professional. She goes to the sidelines. She swings high for hands. But we've seen Marina Markova and those videos going on around on social media of her blocking Vargas, and she's pits deep on the net, right? This is someone who started her career in the NCAA as a middle blocker and has transitioned to the left side. She is the most dominant player on the left side of the court in the world, bar none. She is physical, she blocks well, and she hits hard. And I think that chess match between Guidetti and Santarelli of trying to get Markova on Hawk will be huge. Right? I think that is going to be so much of the game plan. Yeah, sure, you're going to have Gabi on the left side, and Boskovic, once again, is another fantastic blocker. Boskovic had 14 blocks in their final series against Fenerbahce. Markova had 13, so both of them were really shutting down Fedorovtseva and Vargas, but I think it's going to be imperative for Vakifbank to try to get Markova in as many rotations as possible in front of Hawk, because if they can serve Conegliano off the net and they can force Voloj to go high balls to the right side to Hawk, that is where we're going to see a fantastic battle between two of the best players in the world. And I honestly can't wait. Now, I do think that Kazot is really going to help the passing numbers for Vakifbank in this match. Once again, she is a fantastic passer and she's really going to help pin things down. But I think it would be silly for Imoco to go to anyone but Marina Markova. She is going to be a horse for Vakifbank offensively, and I'm sure they're going to be serving her seam between Markova and Ajkac quite a bit, trying to get Markova to pass a lot of balls, especially when she's in the back row. I could see them really serving her short so that they take her out of the pipe altogether. But the thing is with Vakifbank, when we look at some of these passing numbers, they are more used to playing out of system than Imoco is, right? More than half of their serves this year were negative or one passes. So they're often times playing in out of system. And I do think they have a slight bit of advantage in out of system offense because they have Markova and Boskovic on either pin. Now, Gabi is still an absolute magician, but there is still a little bit of a size factor there. And especially if she's going to have Boskovic and either Gunesh or Obogu in front of her, that is going to create a really big block. And especially if it's a truly out of system. And if you have Markova coming over to pinch over on a 3-person block, that will be a lot to handle. So how well Imoco can handle that first touch and really handle being out of system more will be a big factor. When Milano was able to get wins and really dominate against Imoco in their final series, is when they served well and blocked well. And Vakifbank does both of those things better than Milano does. I think so much of this match is going to just come down to defensive plays. But of course, because this is volleyball and volleyball is volleyball, we have no stats on defense, right? I have no idea how many digs they're making. I have no idea how many digs they're converting into offense or any of those things. But the block defense relationship for both of these teams is going to be so imperative. Imoco is still a pretty decent blocking team, right? They're still averaging over 2 blocks per set, and you've got big players all around and 2 solid middles who know how to close side by side, and Santarelli is going to have this team prepared. And once again, Vakifbank is going to be out of system quite a bit. So how well that relationship works between the blocking and the defending is going to be imperative. Now, obviously, I think Vakifbank has the advantage in the blocking side of things. As we've seen, they're averaging over 3 blocks per set, and they get a lot of touches as well throughout the match. But on the other side, I do think Imoco with Monica De Gennaro and Gabi in the back row have the advantage defensively. So overall, I think it just evens out between these two teams. And that's why, honestly, this game is so hard to call and why this game is going to be so damn good. You have the 2 best coaches in the world, the 2 best rosters in the world, and 2 teams who are really going to be they're not going to be trying to change up their game plan. They're going to be leaning into what they're good at, because it's ultimately, if they can execute their own game plan at the highest level, it is going to be able to lead them to win. One last thing I think we definitely have to talk about is that even though this match is happening in Vakifbank's rival gym in Fenerbahce's Ulker Sports Arena, it is essentially a home game for the Istanbul-based Vakifbank. And this is a 13,000 person arena who is going to be absolutely rabid. I've talked about it before that Turkish fans are some of the best fans in volleyball. They're so passionate and they're so ardent about supporting their own that you're going to have 13,000 rabid Istanbul fans and Vakifbank fans in this crowd, that it could be enough to give just that little boost to Vakifbank and their own team. But at the end of the day, as I said, I think this game is just far too close to call. Right? I think that when you look at what these two teams have to offer, how close they are, the stars on either side, the coaches on either side, I can't call a favorite. I can't say who I think is going to win, but I can say that you can join me on Saturday for the watch along, and this is going to be the best volleyball match this year, bar none.